now.
Why? Well, people can see you. So there's a camera, and we're live right now. This is going now. Not live, like it's pre-recorded, but you do have. Hold on.
I am wearing pants.
He is wearing pants. Hey,
gosh.
introduce yourselves. Who are y'all?
Go for it.
Ladies first.
So I'm Erika Garry. I am the kitchen manager and the head confectioner and infusionist for Drops of Life CBD. So I get to do the fun stuff and I make all the edibles.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So this is why I brought you in here today. I didn't know all these behind the scenes stuff. I've seen the product. I see it different places. I tried it all. I didn't know how it was all made. I had no idea. That's really cool. So you're just cooking in the kitchen all day, or what do y'all? Where's the operation at? Introduce yourself.
So my name is Jake Garry, and I'm the CEO and founder of Drops of Life CBD, Fresh Grown Texas, and also Monarch Texas Cannabis.
Let's start with the name, because Drops of Life doesn't. When you hear it, it just can go so many different ways. Like it could be anything. It could be like anything. So where did the name come from?
So about 8 years ago, Erica and I were sitting on our couch watching Netflix. We both worked for Freedom Fitness and the health club industry. We were both managers. And I had a nephew who was having about 30 seizures a day.
Oh, wow.
And he was on strict medication, a high premium insurance. Both his parents had to have second jobs. And I have a connection to a cannabis company in New Mexico called Elevated RX. And one of my business partners and best friend actually started that company. And so about 8 years ago, he was like, hey, your nephew should try some of this CBD. It helps with seizures. And I said, well, what is CBD? Does it get them high? Is it psychoactive? And he said, no.
I don't think they'll be into that. Yeah,
no,
can't do that.
Exactly. And
But
so
I think that's a lot of people probably thought 8 years ago, longer, even now. And that's, again, why I wanted to have you on to kind of explain the different benefits. So, sorry, keep going.
No, you're totally fine, and you're absolutely right, because CBD wasn't federally legal until the 2018 federal hemp bill. So back then, you still had to find a prescription for CBD because it was still extracted from the cannabis and hemp plant, but it wasn't accessible the way that it is now.
Yeah.
So about 8 years ago, my business partner now gave me some CBD to give to my cousin for his son, and within a week, his seizures completely stopped. And so for us,
were his parents just freaking out?
Oh man, they were
because they
calling
probably,
me
like you
tears.
said, they probably tried so many different things, right?
Right.
Everything.
Was it drops? Was it what kind of things was it?
It was a tincture. It was drops.
what? What's it called?
Oil, a tincture.
Yeah,
Okay.
just our tinctures that we brought you guys today. And so he started taking CBD, and within a week, they noticed that his seizures started they weren't as much as they were, because they were about 30 mini seizures a day. He would be in class, and the teacher would be writing something on board. He'll go into a seizure.
How old was he?
He's about 8 years old.
And so his whole life he'd just been going
His
through
whole
that?
life he'd had seizures.
And they hadn't been able to figure out what it was?
Not at all.
Really?
It was just epilepsy, and they're like, look, he's never going to live a normal life. He won't drive. He won't have a driver's license. He can't play sports. He can't hunt. He probably can't live by himself for the rest of his life. He will not have a normal life. So when we gave him the CBD, within a week, they started seeing his seizure started to lower. And then within a month, they completely stopped. And so right then and there, when his seizures stopped, after a month, we're like, wow, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, my fascination just started to an all-time high, researching what CBD was, what cannabinoids are, how they affect your body, why did his seizures stop, what's the correlation with this medicine. And what I found out is that the cannabis plant is made of what's called cannabinoids. Cannabinoids is the genetic material that actually make up the structure of the plant. There's THC, which everybody loves,
Which
and
is the
everybody knows.
hallucinogen part. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what gets you high. That's a psychoactive effect, which means that when you take THC, you're going to have a psychoactive effect either through your body or through your head. So it's a head or a body high. CBD is non-psychoactive, but it has all the medicinal values out of all the cannabinoids in the plant. The list that this thing correlates to is crazy. Everything from reducing inflammation in your body to responding to your CB1 and CB2 receptor in your brain, which is connected to your endocannabinoid system. You have these receptors all through your body, and when you take CBD, it helps stimulate the natural production of a lot of the functions that your body does. Inflammation is the number one correlation that it has, and then epilepsy is number two. So when he started taking just a small amount of CBD every day and it compounded in his blood, it was enough for his body to basically balance his equilibrium and it reset his whole body. And he's 16 years old, and he has not had a seizure.
Well, I was going to ask you, so that was 8 years ago. Is he driving now?
He's got a driver's license. He plays sports. He hunts.
Really?
He's
Yeah.
6'2".
Everything they told him he wasn't going to be able to do, right?
He does, 100%. So when this first started happening, I said, I've always wanted to be in the cannabis industry. I lived in New Mexico when I went to high school. My childhood best friend opened one of the first manufacturing cannabis companies in New Mexico called Vitality. They were extractors, and then they created an elevated brand, and I was lucky enough to be on the founding team of that brand. And I was obsessed with what CBD was doing because, for one, it didn't get you high. And so many people are like, hey, CBD, cannabis, there's all these health benefits, but I don't want to get high, or I get drug tested. And through my research, I found out that CBD doesn't show up in a drug test. And it's got all the medicinal effects. So I said, you know what? I would love to start a CBD company. And she's all, what would we call it? I said, Drops of Life.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind that, is with the tinctures, they're drops, So we want to be able to give people a better quality of life.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one, I had no idea the story was going to come from that. I had no idea that's how
Yeah.
y'all came up with the name, and that's how the story started. If I can fast forward a little bit, just so for people listening, maybe they've seen these things. They've seen the signs, or they've been, because you can go to Walgreens now. You can go to your pharmacies.
Yes.
And the same place right next to the BioFreeze, you'll see a CBD spray for anybody that has any kind of like muscle aches, things like that.
Exactly.
And they're probably saying like, wait a minute. So I always thought the same way. And I think a lot of people, myself included, probably avoided CBD products and all the benefits they could get out of it because they thought, oh, that's basically weed, right?
Exactly.
And so how long ago, if in your experience, how long ago did they start figuring this out? Like, how long ago were they able to split it off and go, wait a minute, well, there's more we can do besides just like roll a joint and
Exactly.
get high? When did that start happening?
So in the industry, the lack of transparency and education has always been the biggest problem because, for one, Big Pharma does not want people to know that a natural plant that you could grow 100% has all these medicinal benefits because you can't go and patent the marijuana plant.
Yeah, like, what, you don't need us no more?
Exactly, 100%. So a lot of the mystique behind marijuana was associating it with people that were lazy, that were misfits.
Stoners.
Yeah, stoners,
Cheech and
100%.
Chong,
Cheech and
stoners,
Chong.
stuck on the couch.
Without a doubt. And so for me, they started doing a lot of clinical research, but in 2018, there was the federal hemp bill that was passed, which basically said hemp could be grown and cultivated in any state as long as it's got under 0.3% THC. You could extract the hemp plant. You could use the other cannabinoids. It just cannot go over this THC threshold because they thought that was just the right amount of THC that wouldn't give you really high, but just enough to help you in your body and your endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
So a lot of the research really started happening. I mean, it's been going on since the 70s, but they didn't release a lot of this. The government did test and knew what this stuff did.
So really, if you're saying this bill passed in 2018, it's still, and like what you mentioned a while ago, it's still in the infancy of being legal, one in Texas and two where people are finally kind of getting an idea.
Exactly.
I've turned on so many different people to CBD products that before had the same intention, like, I don't want to get high.
Exactly.
I use CBD every day, mainly, and and this is why I'm going to open this bag in a second to see what other kind of goodies you got, but mainly for sleep. Because I'm one of those people that, I have a long day and I want to try to get as good a sleep as I can with the hours that I do have.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get as good quality as I can. And I would do like ZzzQuil, or I would do like melatonin because we give that to the kids. But it just didn't give me that feeling of feeling refreshed. It was more like a groggy feeling. If anybody's ever taken ZzzQuil or DayQuil, you wake up and you just like, I can't get out of bed, and it's a sucky feeling. And when I tried CBD for the first time, it was like the little gummies, like the hemp gummies.
Yeah.
I woke up, I went to sleep heavy, like I almost kind of, we're watching Netflix, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna pass out. Well, I was like, you okay? I'm like, I'm gonna pass out, and I passed out, and I woke up just really great. And I would say for like a year and a half, I would tell my wife, because she's one of those people that can't sleep. She's a high overthinker, like she's always overthinking. And she's like, I couldn't sleep last night. I'm like, you should try this. She's like, no. To her, it's like, those are like the gummies in Vegas. I'm like, no, it's not like that. You're not going to feel that way. You're not going to trip. You're just going to get good sleep. Finally, she tried them, and now every day, where are my gummies? You can bring my gummies. So I'm like literally giving her and me, we're taking gummies tonight. Awesome. Another lady here, Lisa, who's our bookkeeper, same thing. She's like, I don't want to get high. I'm like, no, she was like, I only sleep like 3 or 4 hours a night. I'm like, what?
That's
no
crazy.
way, you can't do that. You're too stressful of a life to not get at least good sleep.
Exactly.
Same thing turned on to that. She's like, oh my God, I think I'm a pothead. I'm like, no, it's not. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. So let's go through some of this stuff, and that way for people that are listening, for anybody else that's curious, because I am, y'all at Drops of Life, where can people start getting all this stuff that I'm going to pull out right now?
So you could go to our website at dropsoflifecbd.com. We're in about 90% of the CBD shops here in Corpus Christi.
Nice.
We actually sell it out of Freedom Fitness as well too. We have some products in our pro shop over at Freedom Fitness, and we're in a fair amount of stores all throughout the state. We don't have a specific brick and mortar for us yet because
where does the majority of y'all's product get sold? Online?
I would say through online, but I would say majority is through wholesale accounts.
Okay.
Because we have a great relationship with a lot of the people who do own brick and mortars. And being Drops of Life, we are a fully seed to sell company, which means that we do everything on site. We don't outsource anything. From the time that we grow the plant to the time that we put it in the packaging and you get it in your hand, we oversee the entire process.
So let's start with that, because I'm sure people are curious. I'm
Yes.
curious. Where is the plant grown?
So we grow our plants. We have a farm outside of Orange Grove, Texas. We have always done cultivation for about the last 3 years outside of Orange Grove. We have private land where we do our facility, and we did an indoor grow, and we actually just built out a new facility for the Texas CUP license, which is the Compassionate Use Act program, which is the cannabis program, and we'll get to that later. So we built out a full GMP certified facility with manufacturing, extraction, and also greenhouses. So I'd love to take you to our greenhouses. We have about 600 plants right now.
What does it look like when you're growing this? Like in my head,
Exactly
it
like
looks like
cannabis.
Pineapple
Exactly
Express.
how you think. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
we actually just transplanted.
But is
over-
it cannabis?
It is. So hemp is a form of cannabis. It's just been genetically modified to have less than 0.3% THC and high values of CBD.
But to the naked eye, if someone didn't know where they were
No.
and they walked in, they'd be like, oh, wow, they're growing weed.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Really?
Which is
Yeah.
why I've bought every important person in law enforcement
Be
to
like,
our farm.
we're good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Exactly.
So this is- okay.
I went to the chief of police, Chief Markle, Jim Kalin, the retired New Oasis
Letting
sheriff.
him know.
He's my security advisor.
Yeah.
You know, so we work very closely with DPS. I speak all throughout the state, working with the Department of Health and also police departments in various cities to kind of help them understand what hemp is, the synthetics that are coming from it, like the D8 products and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
With
So
D8, is that Delta?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want
Delta.
to talk about that too.
Yes, we'll get into that too. So basically, it looks the exact same. There's no difference from what our hemp and our cannabis plants look like. They're identical.
That's amazing. So that's cool that y'all are talking with all the law enforcement, just because this is so
Yes.
new that I'm sure a lot of people that are trying to catch up or trying to keep up, and they have all this other stuff going on with like drugs, that they're like, hey, what are y'all doing over there? Y'all trying to sneak around the back? But really,
Exactly.
it's like you said, there's so many different benefits. So let's go through some of this stuff. So I'm looking at Drops of Life CBD Balm, 1,000 milligram CBD. So I'm guessing this is for like muscle aches. What is this for?
So that one you can actually, I mean, yes, you can use it for muscle aches, but it's a really good. Actually, for burns, this one loves to
Cooking?
burn himself.
Air fryer, I bet
with-
you, right?
Iron skillets, man. I like
Yes,
doing
and
steaks in the iron skillet.
So many times he has like grabbed it wrong and burnt, and he puts it on, and it heals really great. Like I put it on my son. He has eczema, like
So this is equivalent to maybe like Neosporin? Or
Yeah,
Very,
it
very
has
similar.
Okay.
shea butter, mango butter, which are going to be great, like antimicrobials, great for like moisture, like so everything's natural. And there it has beeswax. Beeswax is going to help. I use it actually as like a moisturizer.
That's what I'm smelling. I was like, I know I smell like a honey or something.
It's phenomenal for tattoos.
Yeah, for
Oh,
tattoos.
really?
So all the tattoo
For, like,
parlors
recovery?
in town are just like, if you put it on your tattoo right now, it'll make it look brand new.
For the ladies, I use
amazing.
it for my nightly moisturizer.
Okay.
The beeswax actually acts as a shield for
Beeswax.
like
I haven't heard that in a long time.
pollu-
Mind your beeswax.
And then we do essential oils for the scent because we try and keep everything as natural as possible,
Okay, so then we got Drops of Life CBD gummies, strawberry, 500 milligrams. So I'm guessing this is for, what's this for?
So our gummies basically I liked our regular gummies that just have CBD in it. You could use them for inflammation. You could use them for stress. You could use them for anxiety. The CBD has so many type of elements that it affects basically we produce those gummies to really help. A lot of people wanted something for anxiety, something for stress.
It says right here, stupid. My bad. I forgot to read.
No,
it
no,
says
no.
calm and blissful. There you go.
100%.
Okay, there you go.
And that's what it does. It just helps with relaxation. You know, CBD, the thing is that CBD will get you so relaxed. It won't put you to sleep, but it'll get you relaxed enough to where your body could finally unplug.
So is there a difference between the ones that can put you to sleep and
Yes.
that don't put you to sleep? Okay.
100%. So like right here is our sleep tincture. Now that's a combination of 1,000 milligrams CBD and 1,000 milligrams CBN. Now the science behind that is that the CBD will keep you in a deep REM of sleep once you're asleep, but it will not put you to sleep. CBN will make you drowsy the way that NyQuil would, but with no grogginess. So I know people who are in service, everybody from firefighters to police officers to doctors that are like, look, I can only get 4 hours of sleep. I'm on call. If I take that at 10 and somebody calls me at 2 in the morning, am I going to wake up feeling like I took NyQuil? And the answer is no. That is, we won the #1 sleep formula in the nation by Lucky Leaf, which is a convention that does state conventions. It's one of the largest cannabis conventions in the United States. And we beat out 1,000 other companies in that competition.
Well, congrats, one.
We had no idea we were even entered.
Yeah.
So when we won, I was like, what?
What?
I was like, this is great.
Yeah, so CBN's going to be more of a sedative. So like you said,
so this is the sleep one that I think everybody should try.
100%.
Because I have a buddy, right? And he's our neighbor and he's a good friend of mine. I'm like, dude, same thing. Can't sleep. I let his wife try some. She's like, oh my God, it slept so great. I go, you got to try some. Oh, they think they check me for this. Everybody gets real weary. I'm like, man, you're avoiding the best sleep of your life. Just a whole different, you know how it is when you don't sleep. Everybody knows what it feels like to don't sleep, especially when you have family and life and a high stressful job. It's like, on top of all that, and you're not sleeping, it's like, dude, you're running on empty.
And kids.
And so I feel bad for anybody that doesn't get to experience that, because I think you have to, especially with recovery and stress and everything else. So
100%.
everybody has to try that one. Okay, so that's sleep, and then let's go through these last ones. So then we got, so this is the tinctures, right? These are the ones, like,
Right.
it's like, let me just open it up real quick. So it's like a little dropper, right?
Yes, 100%.
So I remember back in the day, like the vitamin shops would sell something like this, but I think it was like creatine, or what did they used to sell? What was it? It was something like this.
It was something like that, but it would have creatine and melatonin in it as well too.
Okay.
And we try to stay away from melatonin because it's a hormone, and if you start taking a bunch of melatonin, your body will stop producing it, and then it starts getting out of whack. So that's why we didn't want to add any melatonin to our sleep formula, because we wanted it to be as natural as possible. That's why we use an organic MCT oil as the carrier oil. So these 3 tinctures, actually, the sleep, the drive, and the balance, is what we call our trio of life.
These 3.
With the bleed. This is just our normal CBD tincture. It doesn't have any rare cannabinoids.
This is the one you said helped.
Yes, with just everything.
Nephew, right?
Anxiety.
Was it nephew you said?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what we originally put my nephew on, and that's what stopped the seizures. The trio of life is unique because the #1 question people ask, well, what does CBD do? What's it going to do for me? What does it correlate to? So with the trio of life, I introduced rare cannabinoids. Everybody knows what CBD is, but nobody knows what CBG is. Nobody knows what CBN is. Nobody knows what CBC. These are all other cannabinoids, just like CBD, but they have functions that are specifically, basically connected to our drive. The reason why I call that drive is because with high concentrates of CBG, you're going to see a lot of mental clarity and focus from that tincture.
Okay, I need this one. So this one, how much? I'll do it right now.
Oh, no, yeah. Do a half a
do
dropper,
it under
brother.
the tongue.
So
You
half
will
a
feel
dropper
amazing.
is 50?
Yes.
Jess wants some?
Yes. I take it with my coffee every single morning. It
Really?
helps. Yes, it helps me with coffee
Do you put it
jitters.
in the coffee?
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah, you can totally put it in the coffee, but because it's oil, it's just going to kind of sit up top. I personally just put it under the tongue. That's going to be the best method to take
Okay,
it.
y'all gonna have to run the show for like the 6 seconds.
But that's the beauty about that, is that you will not get any psychoactive effect, but here in about 20, 30 minutes, you're going to feel really good, and you're going to like, hey, I've got that little kickstart for my day, or when I need a little extra push. So I like to take that in the morning or right after I have a big lunch, because you have a lunch and you go back to work and you're kind of dragging from like 1 to 5. That's another time that I actually take the drive, because the high concentrate of CBG will, like I said, stimulate mental focus. It gives me clarity. I took some before I came in here and speak. Anytime I do a speech, or I spoke at the state senate, a couple weeks ago, and I took that because it'll help with my anxiety before I speak through a room full of people, but it'll also help me have that focus so that I know exactly what I'm talking about and I stay on track.
Okay, so I see the difference. So this one, the sleep one, 1,000 milligrams CBN and
Yes.
1,000 milligrams CBD.
Yes.
And then the dried one is CBG.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So the CBG is the one that's
Yes.
getting you going.
Yeah, so interesting about CBG is that when a cannabis plant and a hemp plant is grown, the first cannabinoid that's ever developed in all the plants is going to be CBG. It's the precursor for everything else. So no matter if it's a cannabis plant or it's a hemp plant, if it's going to be a sativa dominant or an indica dominant, the first cannabinoid that ever shows up in the plant is CBG. So they call it the precursor, and it's got a lot of unique features. The studies from universities have shown that high concentrates of CBG could shrink tumors.
Really?
And so a lot of people with cancer, I have a friend right now who has cancer and he's taking chemo and he lives on that stuff right now. And, you know, of course, the doctors are all, well, it's the chemo shrinking the, he's all, or is it the CBG?
So that brings up a point. I had a relative a while back, and their husband went through a cancer scare, and there was times where he would take different, like actual THC products.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Right.
CBD wasn't kind of at the time available or readily available. If someone is going through some type of treatment, what would you recommend out of these products?
Our trio of life, all three of them, because you'll get a little bit of boost of energy in the morning with that. Our balance is basically a broad spectrum, which means that it's
So this one's got CBD, CBG, and CBN.
Right. So
Yes.
it creates the entourage effect.
Okay.
absolutely. And for me, the balance basically that works best for stress and anxiety because it stimulates all your different CB1 and CB2 receptors because of the different form of cannabinoids. So I like to take that throughout
For
the day.
people like me who don't know what the hell that means, what are those? What did you say again?
So the CB1 and CB2 receptors is what's connected to your endocannabinoid system. And that's what's beauty is that, you know, we are born with an endocannabinoid system in our body. It works as like, basically you could look at it as like a thermostat or a regulator for a lot of the functions that our body carries out on a daily basis. The number one thing that people correlate heavy use of CBD to is that your body starts to produce more anandamide. And what anandamide is the molecule in your body that your body produces that creates bliss and calmness. So that's why people are like, well, hey, when you take CBD, it kind of chills you out, it puts you in a better mood. It's because it's stimulating the natural growth of anandamide in your body. So it'll help your body start to produce more because you're stimulating your endocannabinoid system, which correlates to your CB1 and CB2 receptors all throughout your body.
Right.
So the more CBD you take, the more you stimulate those receptors, the more that your bodies carry out this natural functions of some of these things that we don't even realize that our body does, like breathing. CBD is not correlated to breathing, but I'm just using that as an example.
Sure.
So
When you say that, it just makes me think, like, for people that, you know, maybe abuse their body, and I mean, like, not working out, not eating right, lots of sugars,
Yeah.
lots of caffeine, lots of things that our body doesn't naturally produce, you got to throw it out of whack. And so it's nice to
100%.
figure out how to kind of get it back. For anybody that's gone through, like I feel like the last year, I've kind of gone back to, hey, I'm trying to be somewhat healthy and not abuse my body. It's amazing the way you start to feel after you start figuring out how the body works, or your own body kind of works,
Exactly.
and what's going to help you do those things. So out of all these products, what is your favorite?
honestly,
You personally?
I am just a huge fan of the entire trio of life. I really like the balm because it's all organic and there's multiple uses for it. But the trio of life is something that I wanted to put together for our clientele that needed direction on what CBD does. So if you've never taken CBD and you've never taken our products and you look at the trio of life, it's like, okay, well, this has so many functions as just a normal tincture. But what helps me sleep? Well, it'll be our sleep.
Yeah.
It'll be our drive. It'll be our balance. So the trio of life, those three products by far are my favorite because I take them every single day. And that's the thing is that I recommend anybody who wants to live a healthier lifestyle to take these products because you'll see the difference in your body. Even if you're not stressed, even if you don't have anxiety and you don't have high inflammation, you'll see the natural function of your body and how it correlates with the science on just to make you feel better in general. And a lot of doctors, a lot of nutritionists are now leaning towards including CBD into your diet just for the overall effects that it has on your body.
For anybody, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't. For anybody that's thinking, damn, I would love to try that, but I think they test me. Maybe they work at the base, maybe they work at the refineries. Those tests that they put people through, if you know, what do they test for? I'm assuming hard stuff or
Yes.
hard drugs, right? Or
Yeah.
is it just straight THC?
Well, they have drug tests. So basically, this is the thing. When you take a drug test, they're not testing for marijuana. They're not testing for cannabis. They're testing for THC. So all of our products are THC free. You will not be flagged on a drug test if you are taking our product. And that's why I wanted to create a line that didn't have THC in it, so people like my mom, my grandma could get on our website and feel comfortable purchasing something knowing that it's not going to get
illegal.
them exactly, or it's going to get them high as a kite.
Yeah.
I feel there's more people who want to try CBD than there are people that are familiar with cannabis and what it does with your body. And we wanted to reach out to that genre to show them that this is a safe, effective way. My products, I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and our kids take our products every day.
That's what I was going to ask y'all.
Yes.
So what is
100%.
the age limit, or what is the age minimum? Like, or is it not, right? It's just really anybody that...
Well, we don't sell to anybody under 18, and we tell parents, look, if you want to give this to your child, that's
at your own
fine.
discretion.
It's at your own discretion. We don't recommend people under 18 because as a company, but then I turn around and tell them, hey, I can't tell you to give it to your kids, but I give it to mine every day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, as a company, it's a very fine line on what you could tell people they should and shouldn't do in this industry. And so for us, we have what's called COAs on every single one of our products. So if you take your phone out and you scan that, it's going to bring up a certificate of analysis which shows you that there's no THC in our products.
Really?
So everything you buy is going to have a QR code from us that shows you exactly when the product was tested and what's in it, so that you know exactly what's going into your body. Drops of Life is all about the education and transparency, and that's one thing that we saw was missing in the market.
Yeah, we had a doctor who specifically took it for over 2 months and drug tested herself multiple times because she was like, I'm not going to recommend this until I know for sure that my clients aren't going to test,
And
you
then,
know. And
I mean,
sure enough,
she
yeah.
never
So
felt
she
it.
recommends. She's a fan.
She's a fan.
She, you know, she was actually came out when we did when we transplanted our hemp plants a couple of weeks ago, and she was there.
what does that mean?
helping
Hold
us.
on. What happened?
So we just opened our brand new facility. So when we did a huge plant transplant, what we do is we start growing from seed, and then they become little babies. And then when they get to about a foot tall, we move them into our greenhouses into 5-gallon buckets so they have adequate space to grow. And so about a week ago, we had our first transplant, which is about 600 plants. And I brought out everybody that's on our team. I brought out my family. I brought out people that I work with that are farmers, because we are seriously creating a family farm atmosphere.
Yeah.
Everybody that works on our facility, there's only 2 people that work there that aren't related to me or in some way my family.
Yeah.
And so when we did a transplant, it was beautiful. We had everybody who's a part of the company. We had a couple of our favorite clients. We had Dr. Rocha from Wild Hair Apothecary. Shout out to Dr. Rocha. She works very closely with us, and she was the person who used to be a neurosurgeon and it drug tested herself, because now she does natural medicine. And so she prescribes this to her patients because she knows the benefits of what this actually does for your body. So when we did a transplant, I brought everybody out on the team, because transplanting 600 plants,
That's what I was
It's
going to
a
say.
lot of work.
it's not easy.
But where'd y'all transplant them to?
Into our greenhouses.
Okay.
So we have basically what's called our mother and clone room. So we will start our seeds off in that room. It's a very controlled environment. We control the humidity. We control the temperature. It's a safe environment. We control the light settings with LED lights. And then we moved them into our greenhouses where they could actually grow to be about our height. And then that's when we'll start the flowering process, because in Texas, we have Drops of Life and we also have Fresh Grown Texas. Both of them are award winning. We won the #1 edible in the state of Texas with our line. And then Fresh Grown Texas is a 3-time Taste of Texas repeat champion, which is won.
But what's Taste of Texas? Sorry.
Taste of Texas is basically a competition about the hemp flower in Texas. It's composed of the entire community, farmers, brick and mortar owners, everybody who's actually involved into the hemp and cannabis scene in Texas. And every year, every top farmer submits his flower to the competition, and this is all throughout Texas. And I mean, there's hundreds of people that enter this competition every year, and we've been fortunate enough to win it 3 times.
So is it all businesses, or some people that just do it on the side? Like they just come in?
They have to be registered.
Okay.
So you have to have a registered license to cultivate hemp, which is extremely affordable, but it's not an easy process. There's a lot of money that goes into it, the knowledge, the time. And so Texas has phenomenal growers. We're farmers.
By the way, if I can just pause you on that, I'm just blown away by the information you have and know about all this stuff, because I'm soaking it all in. I'm understanding about 80-90%.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how this story started and this company has started, and it's here locally. And it's one of those first ones that, I'm glad it's y'all and not someone that couldn't present it in this light. Because some people could start this and it would just be like, yeah, that seems real shady.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, 100%. I think people have tried in the past and it just comes off very shady. It comes off very weird.
Right.
Like, I don't trust that.
Exactly.
Right. For us, it was like, I want to be comfortable to give this product to my grandma. My grandma, my grandparents were pastors for a really long time. We come from a very conservative family.
How did everybody in y'all's life react to when this started?
Cares?
My parents are hippies, so they're all for it. My dad was a musician who used to play with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay, so then
And my mom's a reflexologist who, like, when growing up, she was the holistic and homeopathic route. So if I would get sick, instead of taking me to the doctor, she's all, here, drink this green drink and take this echinacea. And I'm like, what is this crap? But I was always healthy growing up. So my family comes from healing. My mom's a reflexologist and an
So they're very open to it.
100%. My sister's an acupuncturist, has her degree in Chinese modern medicine.
Wow.
So we've always gone the holistic route. So they're
It was more of my family that I was more worried about.
What are you doing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, though, they have been very accepting. My family, my parents take the product, but I was just more concerned because I was raised very conservative. Like I mentioned, my grandfather was the pastor for 30 plus years,
So do they automatically think this what is weed like most people do?
I mean, yeah, but like...
Her dad's all, what's cannabis again?
Yeah, he had to explain it to my dad. But like I said, they're very open. They're very accepting. They understand that we're doing it for the medicinal aspect.
Sure.
We're not doing it to get people high, but that goes back to the stigma. We were all raised like, weed is bad, marijuana is bad. Like, oh my gosh, you're never gonna like do anything with your life.
Commercials
like,
where she's like girl all deflated sitting on the
yes,
couch.
yes.
Exactly.
Where was it? We were watching a documentary the other day. What's that movie where they like you smoke and like you reefer madness, or what's it called?
Yeah,
Reefer madness.
it was a Netflix
like
series that's talking about
so
the
like
evolution
back in the
of cannabis.
day, like they would say that you would like go crazy if you like
Well, even
smoked,
with like regular weed, when you go to like places that it's legalized, it's very different than what people think. It's not
100%.
the whole. I think when you were younger, if you ever got to try weed, it was always had the stigma of you're gonna get high, you're gonna sit on the couch and watch Martin Lawrence all day.
Right.
That's all you're gonna do.
And eat Cheetos.
But I think that there's so many different benefits, even actual THC, that people kept going deeper and deeper into the science of it and finding things to help others out instead of just like, here, this is gonna get you high, that's it.
100%.
Right.
So that's what's so amazing about this. And then what I wanted to ask you too, because you said D8, is that something that? So where did all that come from?
Okay, so
because I've seen a lot of that in the news lately, where it's like Delta 8, Delta 9, and they're gonna legalize it, not legalize it. So that is essentially a hallucinogen, another part derived from the plant, or what is it?
100%. So, and you're actually very educated, because a lot of people don't know that in high concentrates of THC, you can hallucinate. It is listed as a hallucinogen 100%. So D8 and D9 is what's considered a synthetic cannabinoid.
Is that kind of similar to like years back there was a thing called sativa, or that was something completely different?
Well, so sativa and indica, basically when a plant is grown, it's either a sativa dominant or an indica dominant. There's no pure sativa plants anymore. I mean, there's maybe a couple out of like the thousands and thousands of strands. There's maybe 2 or 3. But when you genetically modify a plant and you breed it with other plants,
so how do they breed plants?
Oh, that's
don't mind my ignorance.
Okay.
Are they taking seeds and just smashing them together in the same pot, or what are they doing?
So basically, it's a process where you have to grow out 2 types of genetics, and then you reverse one of the plants to turn it into a male plant. So
wait, there's male and female plants?
Oh yes.
Did you know that, Jess?
So with cannabis and hemp, the female plant is what grows the flower. Okay. All the stuff that had seeds, that's a male plant, because what do the seeds represent?
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you grow, you do not want male plants, because they do not produce flower at all. So there's nothing to extract. All they do is produce seeds. So when you're actually breeding plants and you're trying to create a new strand of cannabis, it's a breeding technique where you have to reverse one of the mothers. You'll grow them both out, and you'll basically take the characteristics, and it's called pheno-hunting. And basically what they'll do is they'll grow one strand and they'll run it a couple hundred times. They'll take out the LeBron James and the Michael Jordan of that batch. They'll reverse the flowering process on it to turn it back into a mother, and then they'll turn one of them into a male plant by dusting it with pollen from one of the other genetics. It's a very scientific, intricate process that only a few people actually really have perfected.
So then is it done just that one time, and then after that, everything that comes from that plant will be genetically that plant, or they have to constantly do that over and over?
And so what people know, so you'll create that genetic, and then you'll create seeds from that genetic. And then what people do is they'll grow a plant from a seed, they'll turn it into what's called a mother plant, which means that it'll always stay in a vegetative stage, which means it'll never hit photosynthesis, so it'll never flower. So you cut clones off that mother plant so that you 100% guarantee that it's going to carry that genetic and that characteristic of that exact plant.
Wow.
There's a whole science behind this stuff. It's mind-blowing. And so for me, people say the same thing. They're like, how do you know all this stuff? I was like, look, I am not a jack of all trades. I'm a master of like 2 or 3, and cannabis has always been one of them. I started using cannabis when I was 15. I have severe ADD and ADHD. I'm like, what's that? You know? Cannabis helped me focus in high school. Of course, I started off not using it the right way.
Sure.
But when I got into my 20s and I was in college, I really started looking at it as a medicine instead of using it as a party
So when you were
favor.
where'd you go to high school?
So I went to high school in New Mexico.
Was it legal back then?
It was
it's been
not
there for a while, right?
Yeah,
now?
it's been legal since I was 21. So it's been legal there for, almost 18 years in New Mexico. This is when they started the process with the Compassionate Use Act program. So it's funny, right when I moved back to Texas, it went medicinal, and I was like, are you kidding me? Because in Texas, when I moved back to Texas, my early 20s, you get pulled over and you have marijuana on you, you're going to jail. And so New Mexico was a lot more friendly because they have what's called the Compassionate Use Act program, which is the bill that was introduced by our governor at the time for people to have a medical prescription to cannabis. And that's how we got into it. My childhood best friends that I grew up with.
I think for most places where now it's just straight legal, like Vegas or California, it's
recreational.
Medicinal first, but then it finally gets converted over. They're like, wait a minute, we're missing out a lot of money. Let's go recreational, right?
100%. Well, you go to Las Vegas, like you said, when you land in Las Vegas and you get a taxi, they will take you straight to
just like the way
13.
you used to go to liquor stores. Yeah,
Right.
100%. They'll take you to the dispensaries first. Even if you don't ask them to, they're like, oh, you don't want to get some party favors? A lot of the hotels in Vegas are friendly with cannabis. We were at the Bellagio for MJ BizCon this last year, and the whole casino just smelled like cannabis. My mind was blown, And so right now, there's 37 states that are medicinal, and there's 18 states that are recreational.
I thought it was way lower than that.
Oh, no,
it's almost all
brother.
50.
Texas is a medicinal state.
People
Did you
just
know
don't know that.
But only in certain cities, right? Or no?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that. I thought it was like only Austin or something.
No. So they decriminalize cannabis in Austin, which means that if you get caught with up to 2 ounces, it's like getting a speeding ticket. Cops, and DPS, they're tired of having to deal with cannabis because they'll pull somebody over, they'll have cannabis, they'll catch them smoking it at a park, they'll take it, they'll arrest them, and then that same person will be at that park the very next day smoking again. So DPS, God bless their soul, they've got so much more stuff to worry about in Texas that they're not really focused on small cannabis users. And so in big cities like Denton, New Braunfels, San Marcos, Austin, and even now San Antonio are decriminalizing up to a certain amount. So if a cop pulls you over and you have a certain amount of cannabis, he's going to confiscate it, but you're going to get a speeding ticket. You're not going to go to jail.
Right.
It's too much of a due process, and they're spending way too much time and resources on small-time cannabis use. So Texas actually has a Compassionate Use Act program, just like New Mexico did, but nobody knows about it.
I was going to say, so I can go what doctors are prescribing it. I'm sure there's only so many.
Well, if you go to our website, Monarch Texas
Is there a
Cannabis, we have a list of doctors in your area, and that's what we're trying to do.
What are they prescribing it for?
So the qualifying conditions right now are, some of the popular ones are going to be epilepsy. They just added PTSD.
Really?
They have some stages of cancer that are terminal, like stage 3 and 4 cancers. And there's over 100 qualifying lists. Even autism's on there.
Really?
And it's great. But the state is in the process of expanding the qualifying conditions, and they're about to add chronic pain in all forms of cancer. The second they do that, this program will grow 10 times fold.
Right.
There's only 2 manufacturers of cannabis in the state right now. The state about 2 years ago realized that we are failing this program because right now there's not dispensaries. You have to go to where these manufacturers are at, or they have to drive it to you. So if you place an order right now.
You can't ship it?
No, because
weird.
it's not federally legal. You can't put cannabis in the mail. So even though states legalize it on a medical perspective, it's still not federally legal, which means that at any time in California, Colorado, wherever you have a medical setup, the feds could still come in at any time and raid you and shut it down.
Wow.
But they don't, so it's kind of like a relationship that we have with the government. And as long as you're operating within the constraints and the legality of what's supposed to be happening, they kind of leave you alone. But if they feel that you're doing something under the table or shady, that's when they get involved 100%. That's why when we started what's called Monarch Texas Cannabis, and it's really cool because today we actually submitted our application to receive the 3rd manufacturing license in the history of Texas.
So you are getting, if I can just predict the future, you are getting prepped up for when the time comes and it is legal and recreational. You are like, all right, get that plant we've been waiting on.
100%.
Really?
We should hear about the license at the end of August. We're praying. We've built out a facility already for it because we want to impact the program immediately. There's about 60,000 patients right now, but with the new qualifying conditions, it's going to triple over the next year.
Right.
There's only 2 manufacturers, so when people are ordering medicine right now, if they can't drive to like New Braunfels or Dallas, where the 2 manufacturers are at, say you're in El Paso, you're going to wait 3 to 4 weeks to get your gummies. And so that's the thing, is that right now the program is based off of 1% THC, and it's only a certain amount of edibles. There is no flower, there is no vape pens, there is no concentrates. Texas does not want to, Texas wants to maintain the image of who we are and what we are. And I totally agree with that. That's why this program has been so limited. And when Greg Abbott brought it to life in 2016, they opened up the application, they awarded 3 licenses, and only 2 of those license holders actually became manufacturers. So they completely shut off the application process, and they didn't open it back up until January of this year.
Really?
And tomorrow is the deadline. So if you don't have your application in, you better do it right now. And it is not an easy process.
Yeah.
So for us, I took my team in New Mexico that has had experience in cannabis for close to 15 years on manufacturing, growing, patients. This is where all my education comes from. And then I have a silent partner here in Texas who has been one of the most important parts to get to where we're at on the business sense and the investment of what we needed to do.
And seeing the vision of what it's going to become, right?
100%, because my silent partner had never used CBD, didn't know anything about cannabis, and he believes in how it helps people. He's seen it firsthand. He takes some of our sleep products and, some of our CBD line, and he believes and he wants to help people with this process, and we couldn't do this without him 100%. He's one of the most important parts in our company. So Monarch Texas Cannabis just submitted our application today. So everybody say a prayer for us, because there's no manufacturers in South Texas. So what we did for the last 3 months is we created relationships with doctors all throughout Texas. We created satellite and drop-off locations to where in every major city we have a doctor. Instead of having to drive down to our dispensary or coming to get it down here in South Texas, I have doctors in every major city that could actually prescribe, and patients could go pick up their medicine and meet one of our employees at their facility. So the whole program's about to get expanded. Texas is basically opening their eyes to what this could do. I understand that there's always a lack of education and transparency. Dan Patrick is our lieutenant governor. A lot of people give him a hard time because he's like, look, he saw what happened in Oklahoma, and when Oklahoma
What happened in Oklahoma?
When Oklahoma went medicinal, they did an unlimited license and plant count, which means that every shady character in the industry went out there. And if you've gone to Oklahoma, there's more dispensaries than there are Starbucks and McDonald's.
Saturated.
Saturated, and it brought a lot of unnecessary crime because it wasn't structured.
But it also kind of makes you realize, like, people are just putting out all kinds of product. Like,
Right.
The
Exactly.
quality isn't going to be
Right.
there. It's just going to
Quality's
be
not
people
there.
trying to just get something out.
So Dan Patrick was very strict about not wanting us to mirror, what Oklahoma are turning to a full-out, blown-out recreational state. They still want to maintain the image of what Texas is. Mm-hmm. So people give Dan Patrick a very hard time. For me, I understand where he was coming from. They just had a lack of education and information on the plant, which is why they haven't really expanded the program up until now. But now there's so many people that are at the state capitol. Like I was there a few weeks ago. I speak on behalf of the Texas Hemp Coalition. I'm an executive founding board member, and we tackle these issues at the Senate and state capitol.
Wow.
So we speak in front of committees on bills to get them reversed or to get them pushed through to help this program, because we're not just about CBD. Hemp does amazing things. You could use it for textiles, which we got approved last year. So there's this thing called hempcrete. Hempcrete is 10 times stronger than concrete.
No way.
No there's no carbon footprint, and you can't light it on fire. So if there's a fire and there's hempcrete in the building, it does not light on fire.
I mean, think about it. Back in the day, they used to make clothes out of hemp. You know, hemp is used for so many other different things, you know, that we can really like expand on and, you know, use it to our advantage. At the end of the day, I think it's just a lack of education, you know, and the fear because of what was instilled in all of us. But that's what we're trying to do, is educate people like on what the plant can actually do and its uses.
Exactly. And so being one, there's only about 3 seed to sell manufacturers in the state of Texas. So we're extremely rare. And being one of those, we've worked really closely with the state. You know, Morgan and Abel from Corpus Christi, our representatives, have given us their support because they know exactly how we're trying to approach things. We're doing it as a corporate structure, as a business. You know, I have partners around me that have been in the industry that are extremely good in business, and I like to focus on the patient outreach. As a CEO, my number one thing is that I want to provide quality medicine that's accessible, that has education and transparency behind it, because if we create those elements, we will grow this program beyond our beliefs. And I always tell people, I'm not in this business to make $1 million. I want to help 1 million people. Because if you help 1 million people, the money will come 100%. Everybody's intrigued by cannabis, but there's just not enough education about it in the state. So I work with Texas A&M AgriLife. I work with a few doctors and basically people in that program that are supporting us right now, and we do hemp summits where we go and we actually speak at Texas A&M. We speak with doctors, we speak with the community, and we just basically create this education so that we could kind of push this program forward and take away the mystique of cannabis users and being the lazy stoners, Cheech and Chong, and you'd be surprised how many successful people use cannabis every single day. You know,
he's only lazy sometimes.
Only sometimes. Well, guys, man, I'm just blown away by everything right now. One, thank you all for coming in. A couple things. If there was someone to lead the way for all of this business and this education, I'm glad it's you. I've been just blown away by y'all's information that you've been given the last hour. And I hope anybody listening is like, wow. Like, I had no idea either, because it took a lot of time for people in my life that I've tried to tell. Yeah. And they're like, no. And then finally they're believers afterwards, right? I'm telling y'all. 2, where, one more time, can everybody get y'all's products here in town if they want to pick it up? I know online. And your website's what? dropsoflifecbd.com, and use Jake20 as a promo code. Nice. That'll knock 20% off your order every single time. Nice. And then on socials, is it the same thing? Drops of Life? Yep. Drops of Life. So Instagram, CBD. Facebook, everywhere else? We're everywhere else. Another thing, where's the little Rice Krispie treats? And what's in those ones? That's just regular.
Yeah, just 50 milligrams of CBD.
Just to chill you out, right?
That's what won the number delicious. 1 CBD. I had those
last year. I saw y'all at Beach to Bay, and you like stuffed my backpack, so I didn't even know what was back there. Yeah. And I got home, I was like, rah, rah, rah. I was like, oh my god, is there any more of those? So you're cooking those, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Homemade Rice Krispie treat.
I did that recipe, you know, so we
very cool.
Make everything from scratch.
Everything.
Well, guys, thank you all again. This is Gino's Table. I believe everybody brings something to the table. Y'all definitely bring a lot. I appreciate you coming in. If you could, just do like a real big, like Drops of Life logo, whoever's the drawer, take one of my little markers, and if you could sign our table, that'd be great.
I would love to. And Gino, thanks for having us, man. Your family, you've been so good to us.
Thank you guys.
And,
appreciate y'all.
We bought a house from Gino and his team, and it was the most amazing experience. So
I told him to say that.
Just want to let you guys know we look at y'all as family, and thanks for being a part of the process.
Thank you for coming in. This is just, I'm blown away by everything, so I appreciate y'all very, very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us today.
There you go. All right.